It is the appointed hour, but we do not have a quorum, and we believe that we have 2 members on their way. So we're going to wait just a few minutes. Robert, you've never been more welcome.
You're the third person.
It is the appointed hour, and we have a quorum. Carol and Amanda, do you agree that we have a quorum? So we'll call the meeting to order. You've been furnished with copies of the minutes of the January 28th meeting of the Citizens Advisory Board for MAPS 3. Are there additions or corrections? Shall we approve them? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. I want to begin the meeting by asking each member of the Citizens Advisory Board to look at items 7 and 10. Those at the request of staff are being stricken from today's agenda. They did not come forward with the recommendation of the subcommittee, and so those items will not be taken under consideration today. So strike items 7 and 10. That brings us then, David, to item 3 on the agenda, the Revenue and Expenditure Report. Would you like to take us through that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the MAPS 3 Revenue Expenditure Report for the period ending January 31st, 2016. On the revenue side for the month, we have $9,351,680. For the fiscal year, $65,343,790, for total program revenue to date of $593,668,361. On the expenditure side, for the month, $6,139,226. For the fiscal year, $39,874,015. And total expenditures on the program, $154,838,321. The most significant for the month on the expenditures on the fairgrounds is the expo building that we have under construction. We have also the whitewater on the river under construction. Then you also have the budget and obligations report on the next page that I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions or comments about the Revenue and Expenditure Report?
I move we receive the report.
It's been moved and seconded that we receive the report. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The report is received and recorded. Item 4, David.
Item 4 is recommend a resolution approving amendment number 4 to the contract for architectural services with Populous Incorporated for MAPS 3 Convention Center, increase of $160,000, project M3-C003. When we began this project, if you recall, it was in a different spot. We've since found a new location, but when we began design on the project, we assumed all along that we would be doing a central plant that does the chilled water and the heat and air conditioning, essentially, within the structure. We always assumed that they would be doing it within the building. We've since had an opportunity to investigate whether we could save money by buying from another company, specifically Veolia. They've expressed interest in maybe building another plant in that area. So this is an amendment for Populous to do a study to help us determine whether it's better to build our own plant. There's multiple options on here, and I won't be able to articulate all of them, but in general, it's do we build our own plant? Do we buy from Veolia? Do we connect? Do we provide enough capacity in our own plant that it would also serve the Chesapeake Arena and any potential other structure like a hotel that might be there, or do we go with Veolia? So all those different options will be studied within this. And it comes with recommendation of approval.
Sue,
Move approval.
is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the resolution approving the amendment number 4 be approved. Welcome, Nathaniel. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is adopted. Item 5, David.
Item 5 is recommend resolution approving change order number 3 for MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center number 1, increase of $21,992, project M3-H002. So if you recall, the Wellness Center number 1 is under construction, going very well, but there's always items that come up during construction. So in this change order, there's a shower partition modification for $1,160. Item 2 is a time extension at no cost, and that's due to the excess adverse weather days in December. And then item 3 is a kind of a unique situation. The dehumidification unit that was specified, between the time it was specified and bid, between the time it was bid and the time that the contractor goes to purchase it, the company decides that they're no longer going to produce that unit, and they may actually be ceasing business. So we had to find another dehumidification unit. The new dehumidification unit is larger and heavier and required some roof modifications because it sets up on the roof. So this is for some roof framing bar joists and some other adjustments because of that change. So there's $20,000 in that. This also comes with recommendation from the subcommittee.
Cecilia, any comments from the subcommittee? Further questions? Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution contained in item number 5. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution approving the change order is adopted. Item 6, David.
Item 6 is recommend resolution approving request for proposals for the MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center number 3 operating partner, project M3-H004A. As it states, this is the request for operating partner for Wellness Center number 3. This has been to the subcommittee twice, and it very much follows the RFP that we put out for the first 2 with a couple of changes. We changed the location. Within the document it says that there is a preference for the northeast quadrant of Oklahoma City. There's also a preference for a specific area, and I believe that area is, Cecilia, was that on page 6, I thought?
I want to say I thought it was page 5.
5. You're right. Generally bounded from northeast 4th to northeast 50th, and from Lincoln to Bryant. Then also we made a change in the review committee. We've added another person from the subcommittee. Those were all things that were discussed within the subcommittee and their requests. And like I said, this wasn't the first time they'd seen that, but this week after seeing that, discussing it, it comes with unanimous approval to move forward.
It's
Cecilia?
important to note that the specifications within the northeast quadrant are so that it can be located in an area that's heavily populated and on the bus line due to concerns with that. So that's why the kind of close proximity recommendations.
I'd also note that this brings us back within the implementation plan that was adopted by the council. As you know, getting the operating partners on sites 1 and 2 took more time than we had originally anticipated, and we did get behind the implementation plan. But this puts us, Councilman, back on track with the timing that was suggested in the implementation plan. So this is good news for all of us from this subcommittee. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the RFP.
And it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The recommendation is approved. David, that then brings us, Councilman, I noted that we are not, item 7 has been stricken from today's agenda, so that takes us to item 8.
Item 8 is recommend resolution approving contract with Brookville Equipment Corporation for the MAPS 3 modern streetcar vehicles in the amount of $24,894,508. Project M3-S005. Today we have Rob Edgecombe here from Jacobs, the team that is doing the streetcar project for us, and the team that has worked on the streetcar itself, and he's here to give us a quick presentation.
Welcome, Rob.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back again. So I just want to run through a quick presentation to explain what has happened since last time I was before you, and the progress that we have made with coming up for a new contract for the streetcar project. So the vehicle you can see up here is the vehicle we're talking about. It's produced by Brookville, Pennsylvania. Just I'd like to introduce Marion Van Fossen is the president of Brookville. He is in the room today. He supported the technical subcommittee meeting yesterday and has come along today as well to support this presentation. I've got a few things I just want to quickly run through, where we started from on the project with Brookville's original proposal, how we've been through the negotiations with them, small element about spare parts that will support the project, some of the current vehicle experience that we have, an item about schedule, which has been very critical in some of the presentations we've given before, and then move on to vehicle options. So there is a proposal originally we got from Brookville during the original RFP phase. They actually gave us 4 different proposals, different sizes of vehicle and different configurations, but ultimately only one of those was the one that we were most interested in. When they originally proposed this vehicle, it was a development project. It hadn't been in service, and during our initial evaluation, we scored them down for the fact that there was no in-service experience at the time. They had an expiration date on the pricing that they included in that proposal, which expired early last year. And so when we went back to them to commence negotiations, they identified that there was a price increase from what had been included in the original proposal. So that took us into the negotiation phase with Brookville. So we had 2 parallel courses of action with them. One was the commercial discussions, and the second was the technical discussion. So I'll just give you a quick summary of what happened during those discussions. So in the commercial side, obviously, there was a lot of focus on the core pricing. We also got into discussions about what they could do with regard to the schedule. They had a very accelerated schedule, which I'll come back to, but was very good from what we were looking for. We looked at revising the payment profile to fit more closely with the design and development activities that they had, and align the payment profile with their needs, which also had a price benefit to us. But one of the most important things that as we were looking to try and reduce cost from the project was looking at where we could make use of existing data. So we had originally structured this requirement based on the development of a new vehicle and our need to test and evaluate the vehicle through that process. Because this vehicle is in service, we have a lot of existing experience. We have real data that they've got rather than projected data, and we can compress a lot of the timescales and the activities that we need to undertake, as well as what they need to do, which saves costs on both sides of the project. We also have revised what we will do with regard to warranty support on the project. So we have tailored the amount of support they will provide to the phases of it. Originally, we had 2 years of full-time support. What we've come up with now is a high level of support in the initial phases, and then as the vehicle experience grows and the reliability increases, then we will be able to reduce that. And we've managed to get some price reductions as a result of that. So while we initially had a price increase that they identified, we've actually managed to negotiate that back down to something that's very close to the original number that they had proposed. With regard to the technical side of the vehicle, a lot of focus was placed on the off-wire capability. Obviously, we've discussed in the past a lot about what the off-wire segments would look like for the system. With a new vehicle, it comes with different performance characteristics, and we wanted to make sure that it could meet the existing design that we had for the infrastructure. And so we've done extensive modeling work with their team and our engineers, and we believe that the vehicle can meet those needs. We also have modified our technical specification to get performance parameters that are in line with their vehicle. Because it's an in-production vehicle, we actually have some good data there about what we expect it to be able to achieve, so we can then test it when we receive it and make sure that it performs in accordance with our expectations. We're able to compress the design review process quite significantly. During design review, normally we would have a preliminary and a final design phase. The preliminary is looking at the concept of the design, make sure it looks reasonable, and the final is looking at the more detailed design. Because the vehicle is already in production, we don't need to understand what might happen because we already know what is able to happen, so we can compress that. But there are sections where we have some differences in the truck design, and so we will go through the full design review process in those areas, but we're able to make use of existing data otherwise. The car charging configuration of the vehicle is something we worked on. We will be able to charge these vehicles from ground power if we need to, although operationally they should come in fully charged when they come off the system each day, but it's a useful backup. We also managed to discuss with them some of the details about their wheel configuration and how it impacts the track design that has already been done by our project team, because they were very well advanced with the infrastructure design. There are a couple of minor changes that we have to make to the track, nothing terribly significant. Our guys have already incorporated those changes, and so we're very comfortable. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was the platforms. The vehicle height is very similar to what was on the previous vehicle that we discussed, but there are some small interaction differences, and we've now incorporated those into the design of the platform stops as well. With spare parts, there is one area where we'll be looking further as we go over the next few months, is that a number of other operators are already customers of this vehicle. So there is a possibility of working with other agencies to have pooling of spare parts. We're talking here about big high-value items, long lead time items like trucks and HVAC systems and so on. These are the sort of things that you don't need to buy very often. They're expensive to have, and if we can share with other agencies, we will. But we haven't worked through that at the moment. Brookville is also trying to facilitate some sort of group arrangement there. But we have a priced spares list in the contract. We have a not-to-exceed value of $900,000 in there. We will make a decision about exactly what spares are bought when, as a function of the ongoing discussions with other agencies and also where we sit in the budget. So we have the ability to buy those spares, but we will also be able to buy lesser value spare items separately from this contract. But we can buy the critical items that we need under the authorization that we have here. Just a quick comment for you about Brookville themselves. So as I mentioned at the beginning, when we first started the evaluation well over a year ago now, they didn't have a vehicle in service. But since that time, their vehicle has been introduced in Dallas, and the feedback we've had is that Dallas are very happy with the way the vehicle is operating, and they are sort of providing the lead agency experience, so we will get to benefit from everything that they have done. We also know that there are two other cities that have ordered this vehicle, Detroit and Milwaukee, and there are other procurements out on the street at the moment. So this vehicle is actually getting quite a good customer base, so that will also make it a more supportable product over the long term, which is obviously in our interest as well. Where we stand now, therefore, is that the technical risk on the vehicle is considerably less than that we evaluated when it was still a development product. We now have a lot more knowledge about what it's able to achieve, and so we think that the technical risk now is a good position for us going forward. Schedule is a topic we've discussed many times when I've been before you. There's been a lot of experience in the past with streetcar manufacturers being late in their delivery of vehicles. So when we had to change from one vendor to another and start the process again, then we thought we were going to have even more pressure on the schedule than we previously identified. However, Brookville actually has identified a production slot in their existing schedule which is between their Detroit and Milwaukee customers, and they're able to deliver vehicles faster than we originally wanted them. So they are projecting a vehicle delivery to us in the middle of next year. So that is now gives us a slightly different problem, which is we have to make sure we have the track and the maintenance facility ready to put them on. But as problems go, that's a problem we really like to have. So we see vehicles being delivered ahead of our original plans, and our experience with what Brookville have done on their current projects is that they tend to exceed their promises to their customers as well. They're delivering ahead of schedule on other projects right now. So we actually see schedule risk as something that has been significantly reduced, and from where we were a little while ago, that's a really great position to be in. Option vehicles. We have options within the contract for up to 8 vehicles. As you're aware, the discussions with regards to the convention centre extension involve the need for an additional car. So there is a structuring of the options that means that we can order one optional vehicle within 90 days, and we get a price that's effectively the same as the base price for the vehicles that we're getting in the core order, and it will be delivered in sequence with them. So they can fit that 6th vehicle into the production slot that's been identified for us. We will be striving to authorise that in due course, but we'll come back separately for approval to do that. We then have options for an additional 7 vehicles, and they are structured so we can order those. They will come after any other customer production. We can order them up to 3 years out. So we have a pricing structure that's fixed for 13 months, and it's graded depending on how many vehicles we buy. And then if we go beyond the 13 months, then there is an escalation formula. So we know exactly what the price would be for those vehicles out to a 3-year window. The need for those vehicles has not yet been identified, but it's an option that we have that's available to us, so it gives us some flexibility for the future. So, in summary, we are contracting for a vehicle that is already in production, which takes away our development risk. We have a performance in the vehicle that meets the needs of the system, including off-wire and on-wire operation. We can get this fitted within the existing schedules that our vendor is working to, so we believe it's going to meet all of our project goals. The pricing, while higher than we originally anticipated because we went with a second bidder, it's still within our budget, and we've negotiated to a price we think is reasonable. And we believe that Brookville is a capable manufacturer and is able to deliver the project for us. And if we need additional vehicles, we have the scope to accommodate that. So based on all of those items, we believe that this is a good solution for the city. It gets us back on track, and I'm pleased to recommend it to you.
Rob, thank you. I want the board to note that Marion Von Fossen, the CEO of Brookville, is here, and we appreciate and acknowledge your presence. We'd invite you to join Rob at the podium if you have any comments you'd like to offer, and coincidentally be able to stand for any questions that may come from the mainly just a welcome. We're glad to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and to represent Brookville on this occasion. I will tell you that Brookville's excited about the opportunity to support Oklahoma City. I've been to Oklahoma City many times in the past, so it's a great city, and I look forward to coming back many times. So I'll answer any questions that anybody has, but Brookville stands ready to support you in your new streetcar endeavor.
Thank you. If you two would remain at the podium for a moment, I want to give the opportunity for any members.
I just wanted to add for the board's education here, when you were talking about early delivery, you were talking about now that we're going to get cars somewhere between the summer of 17 and the fall of 17, is that correct?
Yeah, so early delivery will be, well, possibly the first one may arrive as early as April, depending on the schedule, and the last vehicle is anticipated to show up around November of 2017. So that's what we're working on at the moment.
David?
Could you, excuse me, could you discuss a little bit further how similar in appearance and design our streetcars will be in comparison with the Dallas streetcars and the Milwaukee and Detroit streetcars?
So basically we're all buying the same platform of vehicle. Some of the operations have a slightly wider streetcar than others. When we talk about the wide and the narrow, it's a very small difference. It's 8 inches difference between the two. It's not quite as dramatic as we make it sound sometimes. But from an exterior point of view, they're very, very similar vehicles. From a technical point of view, almost identical. The only difference that we're having with our vehicle is this resilient mount to the traction motor, which isn't on those other vehicles, which was something that was a regular issue during the RFP phase and thereafter. But otherwise, apart from colors, you at a distance, I would suspect you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Probably won't.
So the interchange of parts, if necessary, wouldn't be much of a problem?
No, the critical issues that we're looking at are, things like motors and air conditioning systems, doors, body panels, things like that. There's a lot of scope for us to work there together.
Any thoughts about possibly surveying the Dallas riders to see if there's anything that they would like to see improved or modified in any way?
I hadn't thought about the riders so much. I mean, we are talking to Dallas about their operations and their experience. Some of our operations people have been up there already, and we will actually be working with them as part of the mock-up phase in our vehicle, where we'll be discussing what their experience has been and seeing how their vehicles are configured. So there's been already been a lot of communication with Dallas about their experience so far, and they will be part of the project going forward as well.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, I think yesterday we discussed that very issue, and there have already been modifications based on stuff that we've seen at Dallas that you're already incorporating in the design. Isn't that correct?
Yes, we've made some modifications based upon Dallas's input and feedback after they've had some changes. So we've actually done some field mods to bring theirs up to what they had modified after delivery of the vehicle. So we've done that, and we will continue to take lessons learned from our ridership wherever they are, and are happy to incorporate them.
Nathaniel?
I really appreciate Mr. Von Fossen coming to Oklahoma City and sharing his experience and insight with us. So we were able to ask all the questions you can imagine our committee would like to ask, somebody who knows the operation inside out, and so that was very helpful to understand how that was going to beneficially impact the timing. And so our impression was is very thoroughly prepared, and Robson very helpful in our understanding that this is going to be a very good fit for Oklahoma City, and has thought through all the different logistics. So, with that, our committee approved it unanimously to recommend this resolution, and so I would move approval here.
It has been moved and approved that we adopt the resolution.
I'd like to point out that there's a revised page 40. I'm sorry to butt in, I almost forgot this. A revised page 40 that was just handed out that had one sentence in it that was added in 9.8.1 under the performance bond or letter of credit. The last sentence says a separate payment bond may be submitted along with the performance bond in order to satisfy the bonding requirements related to payment of all suppliers and subcontractors as stated above. So that was revised since your packet was sent out. So I'd like your motion to include this revised sheet.
I'll move as amended with the language illustrated.
The second is with the amendment. Amanda, you want to give us any comment about the amendment that we need to know about the bonding? I take it that this has been reviewed by legal, and you all are on board with this.
Yes, it just allows them to provide a payment bond in lieu of including it with the performance bond. It's not changing our requirements at all. They're actually exceeding them.
Exceeding them. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion, or are there further questions for our guests? Hearing none, we appreciate very much you being here. If there's no further discussion, then as many as favor the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is adopted. We'll look forward to doing business with Brookfield and with you. Marion, thank you for making the trip here with us. And Rob, thank you for all your efforts.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it. All right, that takes us into item 9 on the agenda, David.
Yes, sir. Item 9 is recommend resolution approving change order number 4 and amendment number 4 for MAPS 3 Phase 1 West River Trail Connection, a decrease of $137,026.77, accepting the project and placing the maintenance bond into effect, project M3-T001A. So as many times I've described that the amendments increase quantities, this is one time when it decreases quantities, because those move both ways. So the amendment has, and also there's this change order on here also added some things, but the net is the decrease of $137,000. This also, as it states, accepts the project as final. So this completes half of the West River Trail, the southern half,
Wow.
and comes with the approval of the subcommittee.
Any comments, Sue, from the subcommittee?
No, we are happy to bring you a decrease and move approval.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Now, let's think carefully about this. This is a decrease. All right, we have a motion and a second that we approve the resolution for change order number 4. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. Reminding you that we have stricken item number 10 from the agenda. We move to item 11. David?
Item 11 is discussion/action of name for the MAPS 3 Trails Improvement Phase 2 I-44 West Trail Project M3-T002. There's a discussion several months about concern that the I-44 trail might be misconstrued as being on I-44 and wanting to give it probably a better name than I-44. So, as I said, this discussion's been going on for, 3 months or so. And finally this month, the Trails and Sidewalks Subcommittee has come up with the name of Will Rogers Trail. And while we don't have the ability to actually name it, what it will do is we'll send it as a recommendation to the Parks Department and the Trails Advisory Board to consider naming this trail when it's complete, the Will Rogers Trail.
Just to add to that, one of the reasons we decided to choose Will Rogers is Will Rogers, the trail runs parallel to it or through the park next to I-44, and we thought that was a pretty good idea. And of course, the native son of Oklahoma, how can we go wrong with that? So that was our reasoning behind the selection.
And I might add, too, that it will have one of the trailhead parking places there at the park, too. So, it's a real cornerstone of that trail.
Good.
We're excited about the new name. We need to quit calling it I-44. So move approval.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this for moving forward. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The action is approved. Thank you. Item 12.
Item 12 is a recommended resolution approving amendment number 3 for MAPS 3 Phase 2 Project 1 sidewalk improvements. Increase of $28,370.50, project M3-W002. Again, this is just an increase on quantities based on field conditions and things that we find out there. So it's $28,370 in additional sidewalks, curbs, things like that. And this comes with the recommendation of the subcommittee.
So we've just started spending part of that $148,000
Yes, sir.
credit?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
No, actually, this is still part of the budget. So we're good. Move approval.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution in item 12. Is there further discussion? Further questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. Item 13, David.
Item 13 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 3 to contract for engineering services, MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Phase 3 Whitewater Facility, fee increase of $150,000, project M3-R004A. This is a fee increase to S2O, and I'm sure you all remember S2O is represented by Jeffrey Guston, who's been here many times to do updates for us, and I might add that I think S2O and Jeffrey in particular have done a fabulous job out there on the project, keeping it on schedule and dealing with all the issues. The reason why we have this fee increase is when their contract was negotiated, the construction administration portion of it, which is the part where the engineer goes out and visits the site, periodically, which is typically weekly. They'll walk around and just do a general review. Then they also have to review pay claims. Their subconsultants review pay claims. They review submittals and any kind of request for information and those kind of things. That's what we call the construction administration. When we negotiated their contract, we anticipated a construction period of 400 days. When we got through with the plans, we ended up with a construction period of 480 days. So that added 80 days right there. Then the subsequent change orders and amendments we've done have added additional days to the construction period because of things that were on the critical path. So we've ended up with an additional 156 days of construction from the original negotiated engineering contract. So this is to compensate them for those additional construction administration days, them and their subconsultants. And while the River Subcommittee did not have a quorum, it did come from the recommendation of those that were there.
Are there questions? Remind us of the date for the dedication of the Whitewater facility.
It's the 28th of April.
28th of April?
That's for the ribbon?
That's for the ribbon cutting.
Okay.
Right, but there's a whole lot of events that are going to be happening there.
Yeah. There was a Facebook site on the Oklahoma City Whitewater Rapids Sports.
River Sports.
It said 5 or 7 of May there was going to be a grand opening.
Right, there's our ribbon cutting, then there's a period where they'll be getting ready for the Road to Rio, then they have the Olympic trials, so it'll be about the second week in May, and it'll be open, fully open.
Wow. All right, shall we approve this? It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution approving the amendment number 3 for the Whitewater. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. Item 14, David.
Item 14 is recommend resolution approving change order number 14 for MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Phase 3 Whitewater Facility, an increase of $67,026.11, project M3-R004/WC-0817/SC-0912. So this is a change order for the Whitewater facility. There is the items on here, there are 9 items. There's a main building interior finish, which we're showing as a change order, but the facility operator has agreed to reimburse the city for the cost of this item. We painted it white, as was specified in the documents, and they didn't like the white, so it's gone back to be painted a dark blue. And as I stated, the operator will reimburse us for that. There's a credit of $1,126 for concrete finish. There's the main item on this is the electrical revisions. So we're doing voice and low voltage data wiring, which is phone and internet and cable TV, that kind of stuff. In the building now, we planned on doing that at a later date, but we're doing it now while the ceiling's still open and there's still greater access, and we can save some money that way. And also comes as a request from the operator. Additional electrical circuits in the food service area, $4,500. There's some additional insulation, $1,700. Plant and irrigation modification of $3,300. Then we have a sidewalk credit of $13,000. Change from 10-inch sidewalk to 8-inch sidewalk, and that's thick, 10 inches thick to 8 inches thick. And then there was some ramp modifications. So as I said, it is a change order of $67,026. Again, there was no quorum with the subcommittee, but it comes with the recommendation of those that were there.
Are there questions?
My only question was why a depth change in the concrete improves the function of pedestrian circulation. Item number 8.
I don't know, Wayne, can you help me out on that? This is Wayne Corvell, our construction manager.
Specifically talking.
I'm sorry, item number 8, where we have our sidewalk credit, it says that to improve the function of pedestrian circulation, the specified 10-inch sidewalk will be substituted with 8-inch sidewalks.
It's actually a 10-foot
Okay.
in lieu of a 8-foot. What we had it is behind the existing curb along 6th Street. And if you're familiar with the area, the Boathouse District has a sidewalk that kind of runs parallel to the buildings and the river, and we're moving it to that location, and instead of having the 10-foot, we're going with an 8-foot.
Now
So
it
we're
makes-
reducing the length and the
And the width. Okay, now it makes sense. Thank you.
It's 12 times that.
Other questions? Shall we approve it?
Shouldn't it be amended to 10-foot versus inches?
Sure.
Sure. Is that okay with the seconder?
Actually, change 2 feet from inches.
From inches.
The change should be feet.
And that's the motion. And that's the second? All right, then. Further discussion? All in favor of the approval of the resolution as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. Thank you. That takes us to item 15.
Item 15 is recommend resolution approving change order number 1 and amendment number 1 for MAPS 3 Upper Downtown Public Park Project 1 Public Utility Relocation / Street and Alley Removal, an increase of $114,436. Project M3-P004/WC-0811/SC-0908. If you've been down in that area, you've seen the substantial construction that is going on in the park area, and that is to move all of the utilities that are in the area. And we've got utility work, not only the public utilities, which would be the water and sewer and storm sewer, but also the private utilities, which is OG&E and all the communications companies. If you recall, there's several communications companies that go through that area. So what we have on this is a change order to add junction box with the storm sewer because of a conflict with the level 3 fiber optic line. And then we have amendment costs, and this goes right along with what we've talked about on amendments before, additional quantities. And they can be as small as 10 feet. You can see there's, that first item, there's steel casing, 42-inch diameter, was just 10 feet, but they needed 10 feet more. Various items through here, I could go through each one of them if anybody wants me to, but it is for the utilities in the park.
This comes to you with the approval of the subcommittee from yesterday's meeting, so I so move.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Are there questions, or is there further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That brings us to new business. David, staff have any new business to bring forward?
No, sir.
Any members of the subcommittee have new business? All right, that brings us then to item 17, any subcommittee reports. Bob, welcome to our to our world. We're glad to hear from you today.
Well, we did not have a quorum for the second month this past or earlier this week for the Fairgrounds Committee, so that was part of the reason that one of those items was stricken. We did have a lot of discussion among the members that were present, and that was also part of the reason for deferring consideration of a change order that had been proposed. There appears to be a little tension between the State Fair Board and its president and the MAPS office. It's been there in the past, but it really kind of came to the surface in our meeting this week, and it really stems from some differences in viewpoint about the quality of the work being done by the contractor. And Tim O'Toole, who's president of the State Fair, or CEO of the State Fair, and member of our committee, expressed his concern, and I guess I would characterize it as his concern that the city staff, the engineers, are not being aggressive enough in making sure that the contractor is performing as it should, and that there's apparently a fairly long list of items that city engineers have identified that there are issues with the contractor, and some concern on Tim's part that we're not being aggressive enough in forcing the contractor to deal with those issues. Lots of meetings to talk about it, but perhaps not complete resolution. It's very difficult for the committee to assess all of that and figure out who's right or who's wrong, or if there's any right or wrong about it. But we decided to defer a proposed change order that dealt mostly with expanding the amount of geogrid because of some soil issues that continue on the site. And we've asked the staff to come back to the committee next month with a report as to what some of those items are. We don't intend to go through every item on the punch list and try to resolve how that's to be dealt with, but we want some sense from the city staff as to what those issues are. If you recall, we had the issue of paint on the steel after the steel was already erected, and then we've had to go back in and repaint. And there's still some issues with the paint. There are some floor boxes that populate the entire surface of the center, and there are some issues with that. And Tim has advised the committee that as a result of these issues, the State Fair is not contracting with anyone for use of the Expo Center during the State Fair. And at present, he's not contracting with anyone really through the end of the year for concern that the Expo Center is not going to be available to the State Fair customers as planned. So we're trying to get we're not going to be a committee of resolution in the sense of solving those disputes between the city engineers, staff, and the State Fair. But we simply wanted to get the issue on the table, make sure that in our supervisory capacity we have some sense of what those issues are, and do anything that we can to facilitate resolution of them so that they do move along, and we don't wind up with problems 6 months from now. Or I think Tim is a bit alarmist, but we certainly don't want 5 years from now to find out that there are defects in the construction that pose problems for us on down the line. We really, as a committee, don't know what all of those issues are except for the paint that we've talked about, but we've asked the city, as I said, to bring us a report so we have some sense of where those issues are, and we'll see whether there's anything as a committee or ultimately the advisory board or council that need to do in connection with that. But I bring that to your attention that we've rocked along with the State Fairgrounds very, very smoothly from the start, and I guess it's our time for the bump in the road on that. So we're going to look at it and see what, if anything, we need to do, but wanted to bring that to your attention today.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions? Appreciate the good work of the subcommittee and look forward to hearing what you have to say. I will also, I'm going to leave to David to make the full report, but I want you to know that the Convention Center subcommittee met this month, and it was exciting. Sue, you want to have any comment about it you want to offer?
Just that we're seeing some conceptual designs, and it's exciting to see that. And we're ready to work, and the committee's ready. We're full gun ready. So hopefully we'll be bringing something to you pretty soon.
I want to add, too, that the Convention Center subcommittee expresses its thanks to Nathaniel and Zane and the Transit. I know that you have now reworked and taken to the council and had approved a new route to take into account where the new location of the convention center, and our subcommittee wants to thank you for that extra work and the consideration that you gave to that. Also want to mention that I attended the park subcommittee yesterday with Cam, and we were able to show them the change to what was being considered by the convention center subcommittees, for them to consider what impact it would have on the park, because every concept that we saw would look west toward the park. And so, and I wanted to congratulate David and his staff particularly, because I think we've seen an extraordinary amount of cooperation between the city staff, the consultants for the park, the consultants for the transit, and the consultants for the convention center. All of those three consultants are communicating with each other very well under the direction of David and his staff, and I just say it's remarkable how well that's all going. We have obviously a long way to go, but I think as long as all those subcommittees are communicating well, we're going to end up with great results, and I congratulate everyone for that effort. Any other subcommittee want to report anything else? Kim?
If I might add, just to echo your sentiments from the Park Subcommittee as well, that we are, first of all, very lucky to have a MAP staff that focuses so much on those symbiotic relationships. As former Councilman Gary Mars once reminded us, this is very much like Rubik's Cube, and one little turn changes the picture, and we're constantly going to be aligning things to put things together, and I think that really captures the state of MAPS 3 in several ways. We didn't have a presentation from Hargraves this month. They continue working on the lower park preliminary plan and certainly final plans for the upper park as well. But we did take the time yesterday to have a great discussion about many of the things that the subcommittee members have been thinking about with the newly relocated spot of the convention center and how that fits into what we've created so far with the upper park to make sure that that still is the right kind of relationship. We talked also about how the current economic changes in Oklahoma City and the energy industry, have those proposed any impacts on forward funding for the operations of the park. We talked about how some interest groups are contacting us, talking about possibly proposing some elements that they could fund for the park. And so certainly we're entertaining looking at those options and putting together just a list of things for Hargraves to consider or maybe take a look back at as they finish the plans for the upper park, so that we move along seamlessly. And of course, they're very much involved in what's going on with the convention center, with Populous, so that we're moving forward as swiftly as possibly, but certainly with due diligence to all the things around us and how Oklahoma City has changed over the course of the last few years as we're in design. Oh, and finally, speaking of new names, in January we voted that the MAPS 3 upper and lower parks would now be called the MAPS 3 Park. I think in communication we hear a lot about the Quarter Shore Park, the MAPS 3 downtown parks, the upper park, and so now we're the MAPS 3 Park.
Thank you. Any questions for Kim? Any other subcommittee? All right, then let's move to item 18. David, let's try this. We have 10 items, 10 informational items, all of which you've been given in advance to review. All of them relate in one way or another to property acquisition. And so I'm going to first ask any of you if you have any questions about any of them, and then ask David if there are specific ones he wants us to specifically to be aware of, but we've all had a chance to review those. Any questions about any of them? David, any of them you want to specifically mention?
Only thing I'd like to point out is that this shows you how well the acquisition is going for the convention center right now, because 9 of these items are for the convention center.
And do you want to, I'd like for you to take just a moment to explain the last one, Jay, the authorizing the payment for to the Urban Renewal Authority.
Well, the policy that was approved by council also included moving expenses and relocation expenses, and
Yes.
and that's what that's for. If we not only purchase the property, but if they're, obviously you have a business there and they're going to be displaced, we pay to move them and make sure we don't just leave them hanging.
But we do that through the Urban Renewal Authority, right?
That's correct. We do that through the Alliance for Economic Development, through the Urban Renewal Authority, so that's why you see those things on there.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, that brings us into 19. David, you have an additional report you want to make?
Well, real quickly, I'll run through everything. As we talked about briefly, with the river, the whitewater facility is under construction and should be wrapping up towards the end of April. Senior Wellness, we have Wellness Center 1 under construction. We have Wellness Center number 2 complete. The design is complete and it's out for bids right now. And then you looked at and approved the RFP for Wellness Center number 3 for the operating partner. Trails and sidewalks, we have the Phase 2 trails, which is the I-44 corridor, which may be called the Will Rogers Trail, is in design and acquiring right-of-way, and we hope to be under construction this summer on that. Phase 3 trails, which is around Lake Draper, is in design. Phase 2 Project 1 and 2 of the sidewalks is in construction. Phase 3 Project 1 and 2 are in design. Actually, design is pretty well wrapped up. We're doing right-of-way acquisition on that also. And then Phase 4 sidewalks are in design, and we have the preliminary report in the office under review. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned the convention center. Thought we had a great meeting this month with the conceptual options that Populous brought forward, and we'll bring that kind of a report to this board next month so that you can start seeing the conceptual designs that are being looked at. And then also, as we noted, that the acquisition for the land is going well. Fairgrounds, as was mentioned, the Expo building is under construction, and we've completed the parking that is out there. And as Ms. Loeb mentioned, the design of the upper park continues. The preliminary design of the lower park is underway, and the utility relocations, as you saw from that change order, are well underway. And then we talked extensively already about streetcar with streetcars, that contract being approved today and sent on to council, and then mainline construction and the maintenance facility are well in design. So we have a lot going on.
Absolutely. Any questions for David? All right. That brings us to item 20 on the agenda. Have any comments by members of the board? All right. Staff, anything else, David, from you? No, sir. Well, this then is the opportunity for citizens who are here to make any comment that they'd like to have considered by the Citizens Advisory Board. Are there any citizens' comments? Seeing none, it brings us to item 21, and Bob Nealon has moved that we adjourn, seconded by Kim. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We are adjourned. Thank you.